Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The rematch between Alexander Povetkin and Dillian White has been confirmed for November 21st in the UK, but venue still to be confirmed, and more on that later in the video, as well as the push by Hearn, Matchroom and Dillian White to get the WBC to reinstate Dillian White as the mandatory challenger for the February date that was in place previously. That is, of course, if White can beat Povetkin, but we'll get to that later on. But first, to the fighters themselves with the statements that have put up on social media. So Alexander Povetkin, who won the first fight on August the 22nd in brutal fashion, so it's now Povetkin White 2 as opposed to White Povetkin, given he won that first fight. He says, "I've rested well, spent time with my family, and now that the date of the rematch is known, I will soon return to my training camp and prepare as thoroughly as I did for the first fight. As I said before the first fight, and after it too, Dillian White is a good, strong boxer. I will be ready to enter the ring on November 21. It will be another beautiful fight for the fans." And then Dillian White on his social media saying, "We go again, all roads lead to November 21st. This is heavyweight boxing. We get knocked down, we get back up and out it right." And then a bunch of hashtags, etc. And this announcement, because the Matchroom press release on its website was very thin, and see here, it just basically confirms the basic details. So Sky basically ran the announcement in the UK. So Dillian White on Sky said, "There won't be any major adjustments. I just need to be more switched on and not get distracted. He was able to use his experience against me. I'm coming to win and knock him out." Then you have Hearn stating, "Povetkin is mandatory for Fury, and the winner of this rematch will be mandatory. It's just a case of when. White had that date locked in. If he beats Povetkin, he'll be pushing for that date to be reinstated. We'll see where that goes." And just on the venue situation, Hearn has stated that the Royal Albert Hall and Wembley Arena are two venues that are being considered for Povetkin versus White, and the venue will depend on the crowd situation, but the fight is going to go ahead regardless of a crowd situation. So no fans, it's still going to happen. So that's good news that we can lock this one in. It's going to happen, and Hearn has also given that assurance for Joshua and Pulev, which is happening in December, but that fight's still to be announced. Okay, so there's a bit to get through with these different statements and some initial thoughts on all of this. And obviously the WBC mandatory situation, a little bit of a hot potato and something that Dillian White wants to sort of force the issue, according to Hearn. But just on the statements from Dillian White. So he said that, this is going to be a case, no major adjustments. And I guess within a 3-month time span, remembering that the first fight, August the 22nd, and then you have November the 21st. It probably is going to be hard to change the habits of a lifetime, but in that regard, I mean, we know that he's open to an uppercut. He's been dropped and stopped a couple of times now, stopped at least, and Oscar Rivas also dropped him, and he's been caught with other shots through his career. So, it'll be interesting with this rematch, the whole repeat or revenge. There's so much on the line here for White. But Alexander Povetkin's probably just going to be the consummate professional. He'll go away, he'll do his thing, he will train, he'll be ready for the fight. And White, to an extent, is right. It's, major adjustments in 3 months, perhaps that's unrealistic to expect that. But at the same time, White says he needs to be more switched on and not get distracted. That is also probably minimizing some of what happened in that first fight, because Povetkin set him up for that. It wasn't just a case of that Dillian White switched off for a second, in my view. He walked into a trap that he didn't see coming, and he was taken out. And Povetkin will be looking to sort of set more traps like that for White to sort of fall into, to obviously get the win there for a second time. And if White was to lose this rematch, certainly it would be a long way back to a title shot. But using the experience against him, that is true. that is something that Povetkin did do. But at the same time, you can't just sort of say, well, it was a momentary lapse and people have claimed that it was a lucky punch. Luckily, Johnny Nelson has tried to walk back that statement that he made because it wasn't a lucky punch. And White obviously gets caught with a lot of punches, so he is there to be hit, and Povetkin is going to be certainly in this fight. And I guess many people will be looking at this now after the first fight, the result, that maybe this is more of a 50-50 now, or potentially some will see that Alexander Povetkin goes in a favourite, that the repeat element is certainly going to be a viable option. Dillian White is certainly going to be in this fight, though, as he was in the first one. But obviously he has to guard against a few things like that uppercut. He's going to have to look at the game plan, what he did in that first fight. But you can make a case that regardless of what he does do, even if it is just minor adjustments, it's probably going to look very similar in that second fight. The way that they're sort of fighting, the action, Dillian White may be in control for decent stretches of the rematch. But can he avoid the knockout punch as he was not able to in that first fight? It's certainly an interesting question. It's most of the questions that we have about this rematch we had heading into that first fight. A case of Dillian White, would he be able to outbox Alexander Povetkin? What was he going to do? Was he going to try to rough him up? Was he going to be able to avoid Povetkin's best shots, hooks, all that sort of stuff? Same questions go into the rematch for me. But I guess some people after that first fight, because a lot of people wrote Alexander Povetkin off, they thought it wasn't going to be a competitive fight. So, I think the interest in this rematch for many of us is going to be strong because of what happened in the first fight, and Dillian White's career could take a major blow if he cannot turn it around and get the win. But he's going to be in the fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins that fight, but I won't be surprised if the repeat happens from Povetkin. But the other thing there regarding the WBC, Hearn saying that they will look to reinstate that date, which was February 2021. The WBC has already come out and sort of said anything that was in place before, the order for White to get a title shot by February 2021, is gone. It's, just went up in smoke as he lost. Mauricio Suleiman has already said that Tyson Fury would have a year to fulfill his mandatory obligation. And if White wins it back off Povetkin, then we're getting a resetting of the timeline. So to expect that it's just going to be forced through for February is very optimistic indeed. I don't really think that they've got a leg to stand on or much leverage here to sort of weigh against the WBC. Obviously, if Dillian White had have won the first fight, we wouldn't be talking about any of this. So I think that is going to be pushing, up a hill. But of the venue, I'm not really sure that it matters so much. They clearly wanted to make this announcement, have some clear air this week to make it, because usually they would have a venue in place. The last fight took place at Fight Camp, and given they probably expect there is going to be no fans, it probably didn't matter as much. But I do sort of have a few concerns that this rematch is happening so soon. Is this too soon? Is this Dillian White being sort of convinced into, and it probably didn't take much convincing given that he wants the rematch and he wants to right what he sees as a wrong. But it does feel after 3 months that is quite close. If it was 6 months, I think I would have more confidence in sort of picking White. But, 3 months, Alexander Povetkin, he probably, for many people, goes in a slight favourite to repeat what he did in the first fight. What do you make of this, though? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.